On opening day, despite not living up to expectations, Disney's California Adventure still had a handful of some pretty good attractions. Some that really stood out there in the early years was definitely California Screaming and Grizzly River Run, but another beloved attraction from the early years of DCA was definitely the Maliboomer. This attraction was beloved by many and was this massive drop tower ride which sat right in the heart of Paradise Pier. So anyways, today I wanted to cover this piece of extinct Disney history and take a look back to what exactly happened to the Maliboomer. So as most people know, Disney's California Adventure started off as a more budget-themed park. The park originally consisted of multiple just off-the-shelf carnival rides and very tame theming. And one of these budget rides that they ended up building was known as the Maliboomer. The ride was a space shot model made by S&S, and this ride was very common at the time, and it was built at tons of different amusement parks, including Knott's Berry Farm just 10 minutes away from Disneyland. And the Maliboomer, like most rides at Disney's California Adventure at the time, referenced a place in California, and for the Maliboomer, it was supposed to be themed after the Malibu beach. But despite the name, the attraction opened with little to no theming, just looking like a standard drop tower ride, nothing special about it. It did have a little bit of theming though, where it's supposed to be like one of those carnival hammer games, but honestly the theme just wasn't really too much to look at. But anyways, the ride ended up opening with the park on February 8th of 2001 and was decently popular at the park at the time, especially with the big lack of attractions compared to across the boulevard at Disneyland. But shortly after the Maliboomer opened, just 3 years after in fact, a new Disney attraction would come into the park and threaten to replace it. So on May 5th of 2004, a new drop ride would open at Disney's California Adventure. However, this time it would feature a lot of awesome theming and would be a much more complex ride than just a classic drop tower. And this new ride was of course known as the Tower of Terror, and it was a replica of the previous one opened at Disney's MGM studio a few years prior. And the new version of course featured some slight differences from the Florida one, but overall kept the general theming of the abandoned Hollywood hotel vibe. And the ride quickly became a hit at Disney's California Adventure, becoming a lot more popular choice over the Maliboomer. However, at the time, the Maliboomer was still a decently popular attraction, and it did still last in the park for a few years after Tower of Terror opened. However, the end was in sight for this beloved attraction. So in 2010, plans started to become more known about Disney's $1.1 billion expansion to overhaul the Disney California Adventure Park, replacing most of the rides and areas with more Disney IP rather than the California theming. And with this expansion plan, the Maliboomer was one ride that would be cut from the park. And of course, it was announced on August 6th of 2010 that the Maliboomer would close to the public a month later on September 6th of 2010. And then of course it would be removed from the park to make way for just some new attraction or area. And this closure wasn't too unexpected, as removing this attraction from the park seemed like a step in the right direction for making Disney's California Adventure a park worthy of being across from Disneyland. Since this was, of course, like I mentioned, one of their just mass-produced carnival feeling type of rides there. So to remove this and just have an area to do something cooler with definitely seemed like something that Disney's California Adventure had to do at one point or another. And of course, once the ride closed, it slowly became a forgotten about part of Disney California Adventure's history. And after the ride closed, the area where it used to sit just sort of sat abandoned for many years. There was one plan though that was expected to replace the ride shortly after it closed. The new attraction would be very similar to the Army Men ride at Disneyland Paris, where guests would rise and fall in little parachutes, which is also a little bit similar to the jellyfish ride that they already have at Disney's California Adventure there. Unfortunately, this project never got past the design phase and was shortly forgotten about by 2011. And it's likely that this ride that they plan to possibly have here might be the version that was sent to either Disneyland Paris or another park. But unfortunately, the spot where the Maliboomer sat was simply just left abandoned for years after that. And the original concrete footers for the ride just still sat there, just hidden away by some fences and just some wildlife. Until 2019, when the space was finally going to be repurposed into something new. So on June 28th of 2019, the Emotional Whirlwind would open to the public, and this Emotional Whirlwind ride was a repurposed carnival style ride from Bugs Land, which closed, unfortunately, about a year or so before this ride, of course, opened here. And the ride was, of course, repurposed into an inside-out themed attraction, which was kind of cool. We've never seen one before, so it was interesting to see the characters put into this ride here. And the new ride was very well themed. I do like the look of it and just sort of the vibe it adds to the area, but unfortunately it just doesn't really seem to pay tribute to the Maliboomer in any way. It's just sort of a new ride, a new theme there to sort of replace this old piece of Disney California Adventure history. So of course, in conclusion, the Maliboomer was never the most beloved ride at Disney's California Adventure, but it's still one that many people did like having at the park, and unfortunately, it was quickly forgotten after it closed, and to this day, not too many people remember it, but it still plays a big part in the history of Disney's California Adventure, and will always be a ride that I remember. Anyways, with all that said, I hope you all did enjoy today's video. It's very interesting, this Maliboomer ride, how it was simply just removed, and then they didn't really do anything with the space where it's at for so many years, which is crazy. There was plans, but those just got scrapped. But anyways, I would still like to see this ride at the park, but definitely Guardians of the Galaxy is a better drop tower type ride. So anyways, that's it for today's video. Tell me down in the comments below what you thought, and anyways, I'll see you next time. Goodbye.